Hi all, welcome to my YouTube channel Tech Data Engineer. So today we will see Spark Submit command for shooting your Spark job. Okay. So what is a Spark Submit command and why we are using that? So basically, a Spark Submit command is nothing but when you wanted to execute your Spark job, then you required certain configurations like your executor memory, your RAM, how many cores are required, what are the configurations files are there, and what are the deploy mode, either it is a client mode or cluster mode. So for different things you wanted your own you can say customizations for submitting your Spark job, then you can use with the help of a Spark Submit command. You can write your own things and then you can submit your job, and then your Spark application will run. So a Spark Submit command is used to submit a Spark application for execution on cluster. Okay. So it is basically a tool for deploying your Spark job, whether you are running them on a local machine or a standalone or distributed environment like Yarn, Kubernetes, Mesos. Okay, so wherever you are submitting your job, so you have to write your Spark Submit command. So Spark Submit command you can utilize in different way also. Okay, the basic syntax, if you'll see in a Spark command, there are four portions. One is the Spark Submit, you have to write Spark Submit, then there are options, and then after that there is application jar, and the fourth is application argument. So there are four things you have to pass in your Spark Submit command. So options, whatever thing required you can write, rest you can ignore also based on your requirement, but these four things you have to pass. When the first you have to write a Spark Submit, then option, then application jar, and then application argument. Okay, so I'll show you the basic structure also, then we'll explain the different parts. So you have to first write a Spark Submit, then here it is master is yarn. Suppose you are using as a cluster manager as a mesos, you can write as a master meso. Then deploy mode, you want your deploy mode is cluster, you can write it the cluster. What is your executor memory? It's a 4 GB, so you are writing as a 4 GB. Number of executor, you are using 10 executor, you can write like that. This is your Python file with a dependency. Then under the conf file you are write a Spark SQL shuffle partition, so you wanted to partition equal to 100, you are writing like that. You can in the conf file itself you will write like your overhead, your you can say join, broadcast join, or like maximum size also you can. So whatever the requirement you have, you can write that, then you can pass the name as a pyspark application, and this is your Python script file, my script.py, and then you can pass the argument is something in your main function. So there are, see, where whenever you are write your when you create a job, so there are two things. One is the helper function and other is the main function, that is called driver program. So in driver program sometimes you are passing the argument is like some filter criteria, or where what the environment you are using. Are you using the prod environment or stage environment or dev environment or local? So you have to pass this argument also. So these are the argument you have to pass. So this is the structure of simple Spark Submit command. So if you'll see any Spark Submit command, there are four things. One, you have to write a Spark Submit as a syntax, then options, under option there are multiple things, then application jar, and then application argument. So what are the argument you have written your main driver program, main functions, then you have to pass that. Without that your application will not run. Okay, so you have to pass that. So these are the four parameters we have. So now Spark Submit you have to write for everywhere. Then now we will see the options. So in options we have class. Okay, so this class basically specify the main class of the application if you are submit a jar file. Okay, so whenever you will submit a jar file, it will require, so it will specify the specific to the main class of the application if you submit a jar file. Then master, so master is like which mode you are using, either local or cluster mode. So if you are using that cluster mode, so this define the cluster manager, which cluster manager basically. So master is nothing, it's not about local mode. Master is showing it's like which cluster manager you are using, either you are using yarn or mesos or kubernetes, which cluster manager, then based on that you have to pass like kate, a spark or host. Okay, if you are not using any cluster manager, you can pass the local, and then you can pass like local x is the amount of some multiplication factor, so you can do that. Then deploy mode. So deploy mode basically it's indicate how the application will deploy, either client, like client or cluster. Like client is where a driver runs on the machine where you submit the job. So what is called, so basically in deployment mode there are two types of deployment, one is the client mode and one is the cluster mode. So what is called client mode? So client mode is basically driver run on the machine where you submit the job. So where you are submitting your job, your driver is also running on the same, that is called client. And so, and then the cluster driver runs inside the cluster, like different cluster, we have worker node, so there we are running, so that is called cluster mode. So you have to specify your deploy mode in under options, either it's client or cluster. Then conf file. So conf is basically set up spark configuration property. So whatever the configuration properties you have, like overhead, broadcast variable, or whatever the properties you have, you can pass under that. The next option is the executor memory. So what is your executor memory? Are you using 4 GB or 2 GB? So that we will see the in next video, like if you have this minimum specification. So in ideal conditions, how many GB of file you can run. Okay, so how many this entire system, how many big files you can handle. So this we will see based on the calculations. Okay, but this is that in ideal situation. So based on your projection, based on your code, everything matters. Okay, so executor memory you have to specify like how many GB of executor memory required. Then total executor core, so you have to set the total number of core to be used by all the executors, so you have to use that. Okay, then total executor, how many executors are there, you have to pass like num executor. Okay, dash num executors you can pass like this one. Okay, then the second option is, first one is the spark summit, second is the option. So under option you can pass all these things. Then third option is the application jar. So what is application jar? Basically the path to the jar file containing your spark application. This can also be your python script or r script. Okay, so you have to create a jar file for that. Okay, then you have to pass the uh, you have to pass the path of your jar file where your applications are there. So suppose you are creating a pyspark, so you have pyspark script like python script, and then you have to pass that jar file. Okay, in application jar. Then fourth is the application argument. So application argument, which I have already discussed, it is nothing but in your driver program, main program, you are writing some stages, like where you are running productions or stage or development, so you have to pass argument like div, prod, something. And then other argument would be, suppose the filter criteria are there, or some different criteria you mentioned. So whatever the arguments you have passed under your main driver program, main functions, you have to pass all this argument, that is called application argument. So this is the three options. So under options you can pass class, master, deploy mode, configuration, executor memory, total memory, number of executor. This is basically required to run your job. For resource allocation, based on this only your resource get allocated. Then the second is the application jar. Whatever file you have retained in your local, that should be packed under jar file, and that path you have to pass. Then the third is the application argument. So in your driver program, like main functions, whatever the argument you are passing, you have to pass this thing. So there are four things. Now we will see more descriptive manner in the this common options. Okay, so what is master? So master, we have already seen that we have to define the cluster manager to use, like it's local or yarn or kate, or so you have to pass like spark, and then host and port you have to pass like that. Okay, then deploy mode. So deploy mode indicates that it's like a client or cluster. Okay, so deploy mode is like specific to, in a spark submit command you have to specify you are using client mode or cluster mode. Then again executor memory, same, you have to pass like how much memory you are passing, 4 GB, 8 GB, 2 GB based on your requirement. Then total executor cores, how many cores required. So suppose you are running your job sometimes and you are getting options like out of memory issue or a spark missing, so executor missing or something, executor fail. So out of memory have different regions to get filled. So you will get, so then you have to check your executor memory. You can increase your memory or decrease your memory based on your requirement. Then next would be the conf file. Okay, so after total executor, number of executor, you are using the conf file. So conf, basically under conf you are using the configuration. Okay, so this basically a specific spark properties. You can pass multiple confs to different properties. Like suppose you wanted to pass the property as a partition, so you can write like dash conf spark sql dot shuffle partition. So you wanted to shuffle partition 50, you can write like that. Then again there would be the next option is the python file. Okay, so python file, basically it's a common separated list of python file, the zip or jar or python file, uh, to be the distributed with the applications. Okay, so you have to distribute the applications. Okay, and then the file, so you have to distribute additional file apart from your python file, some other like conf properties file. You have dev properties, you have app properties, you have prod properties. So different file also apart from your core job .py file, you have to pass this properties file also. Okay, then package, so package is basically nothing, basically it's a it includes like a external spark packages dependency that required for your application. So if there is an external packages, you can write in your py files like does just py files, your path your pass your zip file of your applications, and then external file you can pass. Okay, then you can pass your repository also, where your code like bitbucket repository, you can pass that also if required. Okay, then jars, so suppose in your application there is a ask that you are reading or writing data from postgres, so you have to pass the postgres jar. So whatever the dependency jar you have to include that in your submit command. Then driver memory, what is the driver memory, 2 GB, 4 GB, based on your requirement you have to pass. Then again the driver core also, so driver core like 2 GB, 4 GB, whatever required you have to pass that. Then the name on the next option is verbosh. Verbosh is basically it's enable the verbosh login, which is helpful for debugging. So whenever you are you are just debugging your spark history, then this option is very helpful. Then next would be the help. So help function, basically uh, you have to, when you are debugging your code, so display the help information about a spark submit command, so you can use that also. Okay, so and this is the structure of your spark submit command, where we first option is the spark submit. These are comes under option master executor. Then the path file comes under the applications, and then configurations file, whatever the configuration. And then fourth is the application argument. So this way you can do that. So spark submit, first you have to write. Then the second option is your options. So options comes like master, deploy, executor, number of executor, this all comes under options. Then application jar, so application jar is your python file. So this is my python file, suppose .py file dependency. Then we can pass like application argument. So in our case application argument is like argument 1, argument 2, so something like you can pass. Suppose you are running in dev environment, you will pass like a dev. Then other argument is filter, is based on the location number, so you have to pass like location only, you have to paste the location data. So you can pass the filter criteria. So this is your argument, this is your python file, this is all the options, and this is your spark submit command. So that way you can write your spark submit, and based on your requirement. So these all options are not required while you are submitting your job. So like subset of these options required. So what I have covered all the options, but you can write simple your spark applications also, where you can specify it like a spark submit. Then you pass your deploy mode, normal memory, and then you can pass your python file with dependency, and then you can run your submit commands. That way also you can do that. Okay, thank you, thanks for watching.